in the midst of the four beasts. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him.
They call me a god. 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 Let's go.
Hello, folks. Richard Moore, USAGSA. And I've got Tyrone Parsons with me from Maine. And he's going to talk about his targeting and this his being targeted, of course, by this a very corrupt government program that we're always talking about, some element of this this targeting. And I've been in contact with Tyrone for some time now, and he's definitely got a story that I think everybody needs to hear. So before I jump into it and let Tyrone tell you what's going on, in the description of this video is our link tree. And within that link tree, that'll give you the various platforms that we're on, including my Substack, where I've written extensively about these programs, their tactics, and the people behind it. We name the names, and we call it like it is. Those that know me well. I'm always going to shoot straight from the hip, and I'm going to call them like I see them. We're not going to pull any punches. This program of community policing, there's other names that they operate under, but collectively we're together. Citizens Corps, FBI InfraGard, Neighborhood Watch, National Sheriff's Association, and National Police Chiefs Association, Neighborhood Watch, etc. COPS program, which that's the Department of Justice program. We'll know more about that. Just go to their website. It's right there. It's no secret what the deal is. The secret is what they're actually doing. If you're not subscribed, I urge you to subscribe, and of course share relentlessly. Okay, Tyrone, I'm glad to have you on today. We really didn't have any glitches. Hopefully, the home office will let us get this done without any interference, but expect anything. So you believe that your targeting started back in Arizona? That should surprise anybody. And you're now in Maine. So kind of give us a startup of what happened, when it happened, and what went on, what's going on.
Well, I was in the military from 86 to 88, and I served on the Czech border. While I was there, we were the only unit in NATO to beat what's called the OP4 record. It still stands today. At that time, I found out later on that we were infiltrated by the Black Panthers, and that sort of set my mindset. I wanted to fight against.
What were the Black Panthers?
Black Panthers are a Marxist, leftist, black militant group.
What did that have to do with you serving?
Well, we were told later on that the racial discrimination and basically it was torture that we experienced in our unit. I had just got out. They had a big investigation that kicked out something like 5 NCOs, demoted one from E6 to E5 to E4, which is sort of unheard of. Took our platoon sergeant and put him in the Berlin Brigade, which is where they sent all the crazies behind enemy lines. Anyway, once I got out, I started working out in Arizona. I started working for this company called United Media, and it was owned by a Jewish gentleman named Mansour Porman, and I sold advertisements in these journals that purported to advance, equal opportunity employment and so on. I was still quite brainwashed with a lot of this kind of stuff. But over the years, working for him for 7 years, I realized it was just basically a shakedown of America. And I broke away, went to Arizona because I tried internally to change things. Didn't work. I started my own journals, and basically it was formatted to fight what you would say CCP audits. These are quotas. They say they don't have, but they do have. And if they find that you're guilty, then they can fine you $250,000, shut you down, everything. So I did that for about 3 years, and then I realized that a person who was a competitor of mine was going to go down. The FBI they had busted him. He was a pretty crooked dude, and I knew that they were going to come after me. So I contacted the local FBI office, and I told them, "Look, guys, I know what you guys did to my competitor, and I just know it. I know what's going to happen next." And this guy at the field office up there in Flagstaff, Arizona, told me to basically, he gave me advice. He said, "Just get the hell out. If I was you, I would leave, because it doesn't matter what you do, or even if you're innocent, they're going to destroy you." So I took his advice, and I packed up with my new wife and my new baby boy, Israel. He's up there behind me. And we moved up here to Maine, where she's from. I ended up having to plead out because they did charge me. They weren't going to let me go. I'll give them that credit. But they'd asked me not to speak with anyone, and there was an old man at that company named...
Speak with anyone about what?
Well, anybody at the previous company, United Media, just not to contact any of them. And there was an old father figure. His name was Al. I was very fond of. I love the old man. He was retired, really, and just sold one ad a week so he could sit around and, shoot the BS with boys, basically. And so I did contact him. I didn't tell him anything, but I tried to heavily infer, get the hell out of that company, because I'd hate to see that old man go down for something he didn't do, and he was harmless. But that was enough, and they charged me with 1 count of mail fraud, basically threatened that they'd go after my sister, who did my books, and just trump up all of these charges unless I pled out to an advertisement that was actually sold by a competitor. I didn't sell it. No one in my company sold it, in my publications.
What
And
kind
I
of
put it out
publication
to
was
a
this?
$395 ad. I'm sorry, go
What
ahead.
kind of publication was this, Tyrone?
Minority recruiting journals. I sent them out to job banks, CDD offices, vocational technical schools, and so on. And this is where people could publish or post that they were equal opportunity employers. And it was targeted at different, like my old one was the Black Employment Review. So it was targeted towards Black folk. And these people could seek jobs through these advertisements. It was stated, we are equal opportunity employers, and so on.
Was this some type of affirmative action initiative, or?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it just see, there's 2 ways to comply with these laws, and as I started selling these years ago, I realized what it was. It was, number one, you have to show that you're an equal opportunity employer by posting that you're an equal. You could do it actually with just a sign on your door, equal opportunity employer. But so they would state, we actively support the hiring people, not discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, creed, national origin, handicap, and so on. And then they would put inside that advertisement whatever job that they're seeking.
Right.
So the Black community would, somebody out there might read that advertisement and say, "Oh, well, I'm a mechanic or something, and I'm going to send my resume to these people." Right. And see if they'll hire me. And that's what I did. But in the course of selling the advertisements, often they would ask, "Why would we do this?" And this is where I greatly differed from my competitors. And I would say, "Well, I can't tell you exactly why. You did this in the past." But generally speaking, it's to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, showing that you're an equal opportunity employer and having in-file records in case of any OCCP audits. So they would comply with the law. And really, if you do those 2 things, my journal would be the active effort. They could argue if they're faced with an CCP audit, that they are making an active effort. And therefore, they couldn't get fined. Well, the people who run that obviously did not like what I was doing because I was informing people of the law, and the FBI even knew that. You know,
Right.
I'm not breaking any laws here. I'm telling everybody what's going on. And so that's what initiated, evidently, a joint task force out in Arizona, and they were going to go after. There was, the publications that were there, and obviously I was on their list, and now I was out of Arizona, and I was up in Maine, and so I thought it was going to go away. Long story short,
What list?
Well, the list of different journals that were out there that they were investigating. Okay. I knew that they would probably want to take me down. I understood how this thing worked by then. So, but I was contacted by the FBI. I got a lawyer, and I went out there, and I flew out there, I think 3 times on my own dime, and I spoke with the FBI, and I told them just straight up truth about everything. And that's when they decided
what
that
did
they
the
were
FBI
not going to
want?
charge me. Excuse me?
What did the FBI want?
Well, they wanted to explain what I was doing with my journals. And well, they wanted to explain my relationship in the previous years with United Media Group, and also this competitor I was briefly
So you were
with.
doing something or saying something they didn't like.
I was informing people of the law, and they didn't like that.
Oh, I got you.
I knew what brought this down. They don't want people to know that you can, that you could. They could potentially use my publication and effectively argue that they are not discriminating. It would sort of free them up to be able to hire more on merit, as opposed to these quotas that the OFCCP audits. And these people say that they don't enforce, but they do enforce them. Everybody knows it. And so that was worked into my pitch. And I pretty much called probably every municipality under 100,000 and every school district in America. And I probably ended up selling over the years at least a third of them.
Right.
So I was making a big impact. Because they threatened to go after my sister, my family just, look, do what you got to do. Your sister's not going to go down. She never did anything. And I'm like, well, I didn't do anything either.
While you were,
but I didn't see much of a choice.
While you were under this FBI deal, and folks, this program, by the way, is perpetuated by the FBI. So while you were under this, did other things outside of you talking to them start happening? That after I pled out to the $395 ad and got screamed at after they cleared the entire federal court, there was only the prosecutor, my lawyer, the bailiff, court recorder, the judge, and a few FBI agents in the seats, and that was it. And he screamed at me for about 5 minutes, essentially accusing me. It was surreal, just yelling at me. Basically, when it came down to it, I was the biggest racist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi, hater, skinhead. I mean, it was insane what he was insinuating. And at the very end, he said 3 times, "Why do you hate the government?" Or he screamed it at me, up on the bench. Oh, so by
screaming
exposing the program, and all of a sudden you hate the government.
Yeah, he said, "Why do you hate the government? Why do you?" And I
hate the deep state. We know what the deep state was then, but
right.
We love God and country, ladies and gentlemen, the Constitution.
That's right.
But that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about hating Big Brother.
Right, exactly. I don't hate the government. I hate criminality in government.
Right.
We have to have government. It's insane to not have government. We're not all angels, Right. So, but he yelled that at me, and I'd prayed before I went in there that the Lord would give me the right words, and he did. It just popped in my head, and I said point blank, well, I don't know, but I think this pretty much sums it up. To which everyone started laughing. But the judge didn't take too kindly to that, and then he gave me what came down to was $980,000 restitution on a $395 ad that I had nothing to do with.
Right.
So that effectively destroyed me financially. So I was just picking up any odd jobs I could. And this is when really things, became obvious that they were watching me. They were, man, I couldn't hold a job. It didn't matter where I went. Everywhere I went, I would have people just hating me and accusing me of things. And it was just crazy.
You were blacklisted. So you're blacklisted, obviously, and subjected to the smear tactics and the rumor mill and all these classic things of destroying a targeted individual.
Yes. And I ended up, after my divorce, it took a toll on us. And
you think that's the reason you got divorced?
It was a large part of it, yeah. I know it. And it just shattered my... It broke my son's heart.
How old was your son when you divorced?
He was about 10.
About 10. Is he only child?
No, I have a beautiful daughter. Beautiful daughter, too. I'd rather not say her name because I don't want anything to happen to her. But, yeah, and I went into PTSD counseling for about 4 or 5 years, and I spoke to a very fine woman for all that whole time, bouncing everything off of her. And I told her, I do not understand what's going on. I know that this is happening, and I suspect it's coming from the government. And the reason why I suspect is because even though I didn't get along with the other side, my ex-wife's side of the family at this time, it didn't explain how I could just go into other towns. No one knows me, and and it was just crazy. I'd have all these things happening to me.
You're blackballed.
So, excuse me?
You were blackballed.
Yeah,
I hate using that term. I want to give that the proper context. He was blackballed. He is blackballed. And yeah. I'm sure everyone that's listening to this has heard that term before. And that is Freemason terminology. They're the ones that created the term blackballing. And that kind of gives you an idea of the diabolical sinisterism that's involved in this program. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Yeah. I was extremely angry about what happened. I was put on federal probation for 5 years. And they sent me to another counselor. This is...
Who did? The feds did?
Yeah, the feds did. They knew I was just fuming about what happened. And I'd sit outside the federal court, federal building in Bangor, Maine, and I would collect signatures for different types of initiatives. And I'd be out there on the sidewalk where I could speak, and I'd also, tell people my story, and they didn't like that. And they knew I was very angry, so they sent me to... Excuse me?
I said, no, they don't like it at all.
No, I even heard from the guards. They're like, don't get off that sidewalk because they're going to come after you, So they sent me to a counselor, and through the course of speaking to this counselor, he asked me, because I would say they. I can see how they are doing this, and they are doing. Well, who are they? And I don't know.
Hey, who? Yeah.
Yeah, and I go, I wish I knew. I'd have a target. Well, what are they going to do next? And I said, I believe that we're going to have a huge attack coming up here. And I'm not sure where it's going to happen, but I can guarantee you this much. At the end of it, we're going to be invading the Middle East. Guarantee it. Oh, yeah. Well, when is that going to happen? I told him it's going to happen in September. As far as I can tell, that's when the attack would take place. And I understood how media works, at this time. And I can read media. I can read the psychology of it. So just using deductive reasoning and other methods, I came up with that 5 months later.
You're not referring to September 11th, are you?
That's exactly. Okay. And it hit.
Okay.
It hit, and I saw that. I was still out there collecting signatures. I ended up seeing that.
Stopped a couple of satellites on this one. Go ahead, keep going.
So, I was still out. I'm still doing my signature thing, and I was outside the Fed building, and it was like the day or two after 9/11. And I got kicked off the internet that day, too, because everyone was screaming about nuking, and I'm like, how about an investigation first? Let's find out who did this. Don't be knee-jerking this thing. They kicked me off for about 3 days. I couldn't even get on anything. Yeah. And then finally, after me calling them up, what the hell's going on, they let me back on. And I was out there, and I saw that counselor that I had told what would happen. I go, hey, how you doing? Remember me? And he just, and he ran in the Fed building and went up to the FBI office. So, yeah.
How did you come to this conclusion about something was going to happen in September?
By just watching media and watching television, watching film, you can tell they prep people for what they're going to do. Around just before this, they came out with Pearl Harbor, Pearl Harbor, and they had all these A-list actors on it and so on. I'm like,
right.
Oh my,
Yeah. That was a perfect paradigm with Pearl Harbor. They I believe, and I believe that most level-headed people agree with me that was the government was well aware of that the bombers and everything were approaching Pearl Harbor.
Oh yeah,
the radar was new, but they gave them a heads up. But to justify to get into this war, what they already said they wasn't getting into it, they had to have that justification to go into it, and as a result, is a day that will live in infamy. And of course, September the 11th, 2001, is a day that will live in infamy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, my life just completely got turned upside down. I was fighting everything and anything and trying to make a living to support my family. And it became increasingly harder and harder and harder. And I'm sure that, we were all victim of it, all the slanders and things that were being said about me constantly. Oh, yeah. So it ended up taking its toll, and then we got divorced. But it would continue, and I told my son at a young age, one day they'll probably come after me, and they're probably going to use you. Okay, so you got to be prepared as you're growing up. I got a big mouth. I speak exactly what I believe.
And that's Isaiah or Izzy there in the background, right?
Yeah, that's okay. My boy up there. And so, I ended up filing with the VA due to my injuries while I was in the military. And it was an 8-year battle, and I finally got my 100% in total. And my son, it really, the divorce and everything took a toll on him. It drove him. I know it was a major factor, for him to take a big nosedive into drugs. And so I spent from when he was about 16 years old till his passing in 2022, I spent all those years trying to get him out. We finally, to the credit of his mother, and we got him out. We made a deal with the judge. He had gotten busted, and we made a deal that, and the judge okayed it, that we'd get him into a 1.5 year long rehab, Christian rehab, and we sent him to that. And those people are beautiful, and cleaned him up, man. And he was, man. He went from 100 135 pounds when he went in there, and he got out 205. He got all of his athleticism back. He was just, he's right up there with it. So I got to do it that way, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was just great. And over the next 9 months, I'm not going to say he was perfect. I think he did a little bit of backsliding. I could see that. And but we were watching him, and he was doing good, and he was going to start a business. And he was on the verge of starting it. Within the next year, he had told me. And he was setting everything up. He was going to get married and to a very beautiful woman. And then I started. Okay, I went to January 6th, and I didn't want to go. You know, I was like, you watch. I go, this is going to be a false flag there. You know. And but my buddies, you know, come on, Ty, you're always talking this and that. Were you scared to go to DC? I said, okay, I'll go with you. So we went down there, and we spent our time around the Washington Monument and the World War II Memorial, and they had big screens up everywhere. This is before, you know, everyone marched over to the Capitol and everything like that. And a buddy of mine.
Did you witness any of the storming of the Capitol?
No, nothing like that. We're too far away. We did see, it was obvious. I was like, look at that guy's FBI. There's one, you know, you can pick him out. And I could see Antifa there dressed in Trump garb. And this really spooked a lot of people. And my friend's wife, I'll call her, said, you know what? This is weird. Let's get the hell out of here. And I said, all right, let's go.
I'm telling you, I've been to D.C. twice. Twice, yeah. That first time, Al Gore personally invited me to the first inauguration of Clinton and Gore. I let me clarify, folks. I'm not a Democrat. It wasn't a Democrat, but through other people that I'm associated with, I did get that the whole deal. And then the second time a few years ago. And I'm going to tell you, if I never go back to D.C., it'll be too soon. That is, when you talk about weird and bizarre and all those things, just go to D.C. I mean, there's more crime in Washington, D.C. than anywhere else in the United States.
Oh, my God.
That's right. I mean, it's one of the most dangerous places in the world you could be. I can't make sense of that. And it's crawling with every imaginable spook known to man. I'm talking about government spooks. It's it is absolutely. I understand completely what you're saying, and I said they tried to kill me last time I was there, and they probably wish they had them. But I said that is why people understand why things are like they are, and how all you need to do is go to D.C. and spend a couple of days, and maybe that'll give you an idea. Because it rolls downhill, by the way. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Yeah, that's funny though. That's so true. Yeah, well, you know, we took off, went to Alexandria, and started having breakfast, and my phone just blew up. You know, where are you? Are you okay? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, look on the television. So in that restaurant, I went up to the bar where they had a television, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? You know, we all started talking about it. We finished up our breakfast, went back to the hotel room where we had it on TV, you know, all afternoon, all night watching all of this kind of stuff, and then took off the following day and went home. When I got home, man, within very shortly thereafter, I had everything. I could tell I was being tailed everywhere. I was being tailed. I was being followed.
Yeah,
yeah, and they tried to set me up a number of times. I could tell, and in fact, one time I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but I was drugged, I was raped, and I was filmed. And the next day, halfway through the day into the evening, some of the flashbacks came back, and I was so freaked out. I couldn't even believe what I remembered. And then I'd go up to the local tavern where I have a bunch of friends, and people were telling me, you better watch out. You better shut your mouth. There was all these rumors again circulating everywhere. I'm always fighting these rumors and these accusations
about yourself,
about myself, cause it just doesn't end. It just never ends.
Well, it should. You need to just quit trying to fight it. You know.
You do. You just don't care.
Caught up into this. They want you to get caught up in this quagmire of bullshit, of their bullshit campaigns, by a bunch of pathetic morons. That's all they have time to do is to get in somebody's ear and tell a damn lie. And how shallow can a person be to buy into that or even want to hear it? But folks that are going through this, they're listening to this. Don't waste your time trying to put those fires out.
Yeah.
Because while you're doing that, you could be documenting and exposing these people for what they are, instead of trying to clear your name or be validated somehow.
I counterpunch. I go out in public, and people come to me. They'll say this and that, and I'm pretty good at it. And I counterpunch, and I made a big game of it up there at the tavern. It was quite funny. It was almost like a comedy routine. They would come in from everywhere, and they'd try these things, and they would just pow, pow, and just knock it out of the park all the time, make them look like the clowns they were and are. And they are a bunch of clowns. And
they've got taverns in Maine, folks, and down in the South, we call taverns beer joints. But go ahead.
Right. Well, as time went on, my son was privy to all of this stuff. And he just, I help a lot of people. I'm 100% total. I bring in, I'm taken care of, and nothing makes me happier than being able to help people. So I'm not looking for accolades or anything like that at all. It's just what I do. And so I'm known to taking people off the street. I've been doing it for a long time, or people that we know, and try to clean them up as best I can, or give them a place to sleep, or feed them, or I volunteer at the local food cupboard. And my son would just sit over here. He'd tell his fiance, "Forget about a movie. You want to be entertained? Let's go over to Dad's house." He'd go over there, come on over to the Six Pack, sit down, and all the people around me, probably half of them are probably working, as a stalker or CI, and it was incredibly entertaining, and he just loved to watch the lunacy going around me, Oh
yes, and the circus came down and never left.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, and he understood. It was around this time, I don't know, maybe September, October of 22, things really started heating up in my world. There's a gentleman that came in there named Crippen, and he was just trying to pretend like, I'm just here for some other reason. I knew right away. I told everyone, this guy is a Fed, or he's working for the Feds. I guarantee you. He was an ex-colonel, Marine sniper, did a whole bunch of different special ops. Man, he reminded me of that guy on the A-Team, George Papard. Just the Anglo-Saxon type of look, the gray hair. He had it all.
He had the cigar.
Yeah, exactly. That's all he was missing, man. Yeah. And he was quite the character, And he told me he was going through a divorce. Everyone was telling me, you got to stop helping people. They were trying to warn me. And there was another girl that showed up there who everyone knew her around town. Her name was Jessica. She had a lot of weird accusations, and she just everyone thought she lost her mind. And talking to her, I think that there was probably something to what she was saying, because she had told me she had been raped as a young child, and these memories came back, and it had something to do with her father. And a satanic ceremony or some, But she also told me she was diagnosed with schizophrenia I think it was schizophrenia at age 10 or 9. And that's,
we get a lot of, and I know there's a lot of people that will be watching this that are going to concur with what I'm saying. You hear a lot when we talk about this program of being targeted, and people bring in different dynamics, and it always there's going to be a few that are going to bring the this satanic element into it, witchcraft and fraternal organizations and all these kind of things. And I'm not dismissing any of that. What I want to clarify, maybe help people understand that every single element of this program, and this is after 9/11, this terrorist watch list is a domestic terrorist watch list where millions of Americans are listed and targeted without any avenue of contesting that or any process of being removed from that, thanks to Homeland Security. But every element of this program is inherently evil. It does not jibe with God's word. It doesn't jibe with truth and honesty and true justice and so forth. So if it's not lining up with God, then it's lining up with the evil one. So there is truth, 100% truth to this, the satanic elements of this program. Every element of this program can be viewed as satanic in one form or another, but it's all evil. No part of it is good.
I agree. I didn't know what to think about that, but she definitely needed help. And a year previous to this conversation, I was around the same time that I meet this Crippen character at the local tavern. A year earlier, I had told her that if she ever wanted help, I would help her. And at this time, I had brought in a Catholic priest friend of mine that I met on the internet. He had been staying with me for about a year, I think, up to this point. I needed his help in regard to my son. And so he was staying at my house, and I wanted to hook up Jessica with this. He does exorcisms and all, the whole 9 yards. And I wanted to hook them up, and I figured that this would be able to help her. So I ended up, and I told everyone, these are the last two people that I'm bringing in, without me at least knowing them. I have been taking a lot of chances. I'm sort of a sucker that way.
Oh, well, are we all? I want him taking in people I know. Even immediate family. I've told people before that I hate most of the people that I love. So you do the math on that one. I concur with that. Same here. I brought her in, and I brought in also Crippen at the same time. And I went down to North Carolina where my daughter was going to school, and I told her, all these years, when it's been 8 years now, I've had to focus on your brother. Well, he's doing fine now, and I'm not much of a multitasker, but honey, I'm focusing on you now, okay? We're going to get you going. Give her 100%, well, not 100%, but you get my point. It should be my main focus now. And I apologized for not being able to be there as many times as I should have, because I was constantly worrying about my son and trying to get him out of trouble and everything else. So tell us about, you mentioned that Isaiah, Israel, and Izzy had his bout with drugs, and what was his drug of choice? Do you know?
Boy, I mean, this newest generation. I remember when I was a kid and I was into that kind of scene through my 20s, into my 20s. it's just a different. He was shooting up. He was shooting up heroin.
Heroin. Yeah, that's what I was. Prior to the other conversations we hadn't had this conversation. I just assumed that it was heroin because you're in the New England states and it's more prevalent there than it is in the South. Which it's in the South, it's high-speed chicken feed, methamphetamine. Heroin's there, but it's not like it is in your neck of the woods. But now there's a major issue nationwide with fentanyl, which is heroin on steroids. And that is absolutely young people are dropping literally like flies nationwide with this
crazy
onslaught of that. And it's it'll close the borders and all these things are going on. But folks, don't kid yourself of thinking that this is going to stop. And there's reasons it's not going to stop. And this program will not let it stop unless the program is stopped, because that's part of it. Part of it is making sure that this big machine of crime and punishment continues to grow, and the paradigm continues to be balanced out of the problem. Here's the solution. So you rest assured that that's going to be the deal. So Izzy is addicted to one of the most addictive and destructive drugs known to man, is heroin. And so that's going to be a struggle that I'm telling you, folks, there's very few people manage to come out of that any other way than the way Izzy came out. But because of your targeting, of course, that would include your family being targeted. And and so we know that Izzy did not die from an overdose or anything like that. Tell us what happened.
Well, if I can get right into that. I got back up here. I brought in Steve. I brought in Jessica. Steve, after being here for about 3 weeks, I mean, he was gaslighting everybody. I just point blank told him, I said, cut the shit. What brings you to my home? I bring you in off the street. You say you're going through a divorce, and you're in my home trying to create trouble. Why are you here? And I started listing off things, and he would not. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't going to be recorded. And it basically came down to my opposition to the mandates, the so-called vaccine. I was very vocal about it in my community about how I do not take it. They're going to kill you. I'm telling you.
Who knew? Fauci and that whole team needs to be marched to the death chamber.
You know it.
I hope that we see those things coming. These criminals.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. Yeah, and so that was it. My opposition to the Ukraine war, I was extremely vocal about that. There was a laundry list of things, but those two things pretty much stood out. I don't like Talmudic belief systems. Anyway, at the end of all of this kind of thing, I just got up and I said, you know what? Get the F out of my house. And I kicked him out. And immediately after that, a girl that my son had dated in the past, and she was homeless. I was putting her up at my house. She runs into the room. Look at this. Look what Steve put on my Facebook post. And it was a real horrible attempt at trying to say it was an advertisement. It was just dumb. Basically, what it said was, no one's ever treated my friend Steve as poorly as you have. Before we're done with you, everybody will have someone in this world, but you will have no one. And then it ended with car wreck, dead on arrival. My son came over later on that evening, and I told him about all this stuff. I was like, boy.
Somebody posted on Facebook.
Watch your back.
Are you telling me that somebody posted on Facebook that someone would be in a car wreck and dead on arrival?
Yeah, and it was obvious. It was disguised as some. It was not an advertisement. The girl even said, "She look at this. Steve did this. Steve did this." I go, I know, and it is a coded direct threat. And this girl had been driving him around.
Oh, they love Facebook. Facebook is a playground for the imbecile for sure.
Oh, they kicked me off. I can't remember what it was. I had 16 accounts because they just kept on kicking me off. I finally gave up. I was like, I have
given up. I'm on there, folks. I'm telling you. And they just love to know where and how. And good luck with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I told my son that. I told him, watch your back. We went through this conversation again, and it was again about 3 weeks after that, Christmas Eve. Just the day prior to it, he said, "Dad, why did you name me Israel?" And I know you told me why. And I said, "Son, I named you Israel because of its meaning, the meaning of the name. It means he who overcomes all and reigns with the Lord." And I couldn't think of anything that I would hope for you than to achieve that. And he said, "Okay, Pops, good to know." And walked out the door. The next day was Christmas Eve. He was over here. He was out of character. He had been drinking. And I said, "Man, you watch yourself." Anyway, he went over to his fiance's around 12 o'clock. And I called over there. I said, "You keep an eye on him. He's not acting right. This isn't." She said, "No, I got him. Don't even worry about it." I had to pick up my daughter at 10 o'clock up at the bus stop up in Augusta, and we were just pulling in, and I got a text from his fiance saying something's wrong. Izzy's not answering his phone. This is way out of character. And she said, I have a tracer on his phone, and I'm in contact with his mother, and she has a tracer on his phone too. Apparently, he's only 200 yards from your house. So I called back to my house, and I asked his best friend, get outside, go down the road. Evidently, Israel's right around the house. And I talked to my priest friend, Edgar, and I got calls back just as I was loading my daughter into the truck to come back home.
Yeah.
That there was a wreck right down the road, and we have I pulled in. Okay, we sped back here, and there was a quarter mile of government vehicles outside my house. A quarter mile. There was 50 government vehicles at least, somewhere around there, around 40 to 50, parked all the way from my driveway all the way down to the power lines where this occurred. The swath that's all cleared there, and then up around the corner and up the hill, quarter mile for a one-car wreck because somebody went off the road. And when I got out of the vehicle, well, as I approached, I saw one sheriff. He had his back to me, so I used a very authoritative voice, and I wound down my window, and I banged on the side of my truck. Boom, boom. I said, "Tell me one thing. Is he dead or alive?" And the guy, without thinking, turned around, because this is what I wanted. I wanted him to scream the truth. Turns around, and in a very mission accomplished type of voice, he said, "He's dead." And everyone in the car just went, "Oh my God." So we pulled through this 50 car long caravan of government vehicles and pulled up, and two very kind sheriffs were at my door, and they, just had their head down. We are so sorry. Your son's dead. So I walked in, and I'm just in total shock. My daughter goes upstairs, talked with her, came back down. About 3 hours later, the vehicles had pretty much all pulled away. There was only two. I could see it from my living room. I'm looking at it right now. And suddenly, Jessica comes in. She walks in the door, and this is like 1:00 midnight, and she has no vehicle. And she walks in, and I look down the hall, and she's just bubbly and do. And I'm thinking, what the hell is this? And she comes into the living room where I'd been sitting in the dark, and she goes, well, Ty, why do you seem like you're all sad and depressed tonight? Just like that. And I was thinking, my God, is this really happening?
It's really happening, yeah.
I said, my son, Izzy, he's dead. And she proceeded to laugh in my face for like, maybe I got the time wrong on this, 30 seconds to a full minute.
What year was this?
Hysterically laughing at me.
What year was this, Tyrone?
2022, Christmas Eve. And she just kept on doing that and walked out, and I was just numb. People said, why I would have this, and I was just numb. It was surreal. It was absolutely surreal. She knew exactly what happened. She was down there. She was in the road. This is part of the report, the FOIAs that I sent out. The first guy on the scene himself, he said he ran out with his no shoes on, and my son's car was upside down. He could hear Christmas music playing. And I said, did you attempt to get him out of the car? He goes, I would have. And he was crying. My boy died at 14. And I was like, it's okay. Just tell me what happened. And he said, I couldn't see in it. All the airbags that went off there, it was covering all the windows. And there was one line over it because he had a very small, it's only about you have large telephone poles and you got small telephone poles, right? No, there's a camp right down there. And it's a small one, maybe about 8 inches in diameter and about, 15 feet tall. And it was rotted. And the car had smacked it on the side and rolled down. So there was a line down, and it didn't know if it was a telephone line or whatever. It ended up being just a telephone line. But I didn't blame him for not making the risk. I would have been pretty scared, too, to touch that car. Maybe if you thought a little bit more about the radio going. But, you're probably panicked, and I totally understand. And so, she laughed and laughed and laughed. And the next morning, Edgar said, get this girl, just get her out of here. Over the next 2 days, while we're all grieving, she keeps on texting me, saying things like, I just couldn't think of anybody else in the world to ask this of, but you. Do you think you can give me a ride out to my dad's place in Canaan?
Yeah, she was a real nut job.
Yeah. And I know.
Give her a ride, all right.
Wow. So then, that stopped, and I was trying to put 2 and 2 together. The following, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, we went down to view him, and he was pristine. Absolutely pristine. He had a tiny cut right here and a tiny little laceration on the back of his head. That was it. Yeah. I noticed now, I put this together too. There's photos of the car wreck where they.
Tell us about the car wreck. Was this? How did it happen? Was this a created event, staged?
It was staged. There's no doubt about it. The sheriff had showed up. I think it was on Sunday, and he wanted to take a statement from me. And I asked him a couple of things. I said, my son's best friend claims that my son was alive. He went down there, could see him moving outside of the door. He was half outside the door, and he was moving. He was screaming, somebody go help him, help him. That's what he had told me. And I'm trying to put things together, and what are you telling me? So I asked him, my son was alive. Oh, no. It was obvious. It was obvious blunt force trauma. That's what killed him. He was. We had to we had to break open that trunk to get in there because we couldn't get the doors open. Well, you look at the photos, the door was open. Okay, I mean that just showed he was lying right there, and they had photos of my son, and he didn't have any blood coming down his ear right here. Like after I viewed the body, I saw the blood coming. That's strange. I ended up talking to 2 people there at the funeral home, and one of them knew Israel, and he was crying when he told me, he goes, I've never seen anything like it, Ty. I don't know, because I asked him, was there anything strange that happened the night they brought him in? And he told me, he goes, he didn't smell. He had no smell. You see, they had alleged that he was so drunk that he just went off the road.
Was there an autopsy done?
They viewed the body, didn't actually do an autopsy.
So no toxicology, no nothing.
Well, there was toxicology done, but it took them what was it, 50 days? And they didn't, test for the whole range of anything. They said in the report that his blood alcohol level is 0.30.
How did they come to that conclusion?
Well, evidently from the blood sample that they took.
So they did take it, and they just tested for alcohol.
And I guess marijuana, they said that there was a trace of THC-9, but not enough that would ever scare anybody.
Yeah.
Huh?
THC can show up for a month or so after ingestion.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he said, he goes, I've been working this job here at the funeral home for a long time. I knew Izzy. It was very strange that night. I've never seen anything like it. He wouldn't go into too much detail, but he said that when we put him in the back room, he goes, anyone who's ever been brought in on an OUI death, that room smells like alcohol. And so does their body. Israel had no smell on him, and that room didn't smell like alcohol at all. No. Even a day later, I'd go in there, no smell. It should stink of alcohol, and there was none.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, well, what in the hell? I talked to a different person that worked there, and I said, were you there during the autopsy? And he was just fidgeting. He was so scared. He just, 2 vials, that's all, 2 vials. That's all they took, 2 vials. I didn't even, I didn't ask it. I just asked if you, I was there. And they only took 2 vials. Only 2 vials. That's all they took.
So obviously they were nervous about talking to you about it. Has there been any kind of investigation of foul play in this deal, or is it just written off as he was drunk and Kara's driving?
Well, I when I talked to the sheriff, I asked him that, on a Sunday, a couple days later, I said, now you saw those tire tracks down there. You mapped the scene, right? Oh, no, we didn't map the scene. There was no mapping of the scene. We didn't need to do that. I said, what? I didn't see any tire tracks. It shows. I went down there. He was driving up towards my place, and he pulled a hard left. Something was out in the road, probably Jessica, or I also found a big log completely out of place, just where he pulled hard left. He goes, hard left, hard right, hard left, hard right, goes up on 2 tires, and where that pull hit was the driver's side. Now, if he should have by all rights been mangled. He should have had cranial injuries, huge lacerations, a broken bone. There was nothing. He was pristine, so it was obvious that these airbags did go off. And so I did call up the sheriff after that. I said, listen, have you talked to Mr. Crippen, Colonel Crippen? And, what are you trying? I know Crippen. What are you trying to allege there, Mr. Parsons, that Mr. Crippen was out there in the woods and then saw your son come down the road, jumped out there like you're stalking your son? And I said, I got to go. Boom, hung up the phone. I told him why. I told these people. I went up to the jail. I told them I was threatened. I was threatened just before this.
And all this was called, right? What'd they say about that?
There was nothing. There was another gentleman. He wanted to talk to me, but I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't know who to trust. There's no way. I mean, I didn't want to talk to him. I knew the fix was in. I didn't know who to trust at the sheriff's department. I didn't know who to trust at all. It was obvious that this was a staged car wreck, and that they drained his blood because there's no other way that he would have no smell at all. And so basically, I started putting out the FOIAs, and
they drained his blood. I want y'all to hear this. I mean, there's other cases and other stories that I've covered here where we've that same thing. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I hope we find out.
Me too, sir. The gang stalking at this point went into overdrive. I decided to, since no one else is investigating, I said, screw it. I'm going back into their world. And I went into their world. I spent 2 years trying to document who I believed was doing the stalking. And I got about 15 names. And so I decentralized all the evidence that I had collected. Somebody went in and swiped my Gmail account. I think that was about a year ago. No, about 6 months ago. But that doesn't matter because I have it decentralized. So what are you going to do? You're going to go after everybody. Right. And now I'm sending out letters on Monday. I've been trying to contact the new administration to get a new investigation going. And I briefly spoke with Tucker Carlson. I mean, not really spoke to him. I wouldn't go up to his home and freak him out. Right. But I got a letter hand delivered to him, and he wrote me back. It was very kind. It was very, very kind. He said, I never heard of a more horrible story or something. That is just horrible. That is just unbelievable. And he said he didn't know how to help, and I understand. I didn't even have my FOIAs, I think, at this point back.
Right. Yeah, it's a tall order. When we talk about targeting individually, because it continues to toll. It is designed for that purpose, to make it difficult to articulate. You can't narrow it down to a certain event, a time of the day, and so forth. When it continues to toll, it's going as we speak, and that is so we have to reach out and take these events and articulate those the best we can. But just know that it's they've got every excuse in the world as why they're screwing with somebody, and none of them and none of their tactics, none of it is legal. However, it is the very people that you report these crimes to are the very people that are propping it up. And so, of course, it's the fox guard in the hen house. And that is the case with yourself and Izzy. And I think that, as we discussed before, that it's important to that Izzy's story is told, and that he wasn't drunk, driving, and it just for
he might have.
He's not no longer with us. This was a targeted hit.
Yeah, it was a targeted hit. And I think he had definitely been drinking that day. Earlier in the day, he was. And according to his fiancée, he did have some alcohol at, but 0.30. I mean, and then the blood draining, that's what I was telling him, watch your back. Don't be doing stupid stuff like they'll try to find a time when you're vulnerable.
Right.
And so I maintain that, he had alcohol, and that's the truth. I'm sure he did. But you know what? He would have also smelled at the funeral, during the autopsy at the funeral home. But they drained his blood. They had to have drained his blood between the time that they picked him up to the time when they dropped him off.
Yeah.
Then I want to take a look at the vehicle, and they had it in the evidence impound yard at the county. And they let me in one time to take a look at it, and then I wanted to go back a week later because I was like, wait a second, there's like no blood in this thing, and there's no, I wanted to take a look at it a little closer. And the guy that I spoke with, in those certain terms, he was basically, he didn't say anything. His body language was, you better get the hell out of here before I do something to you. You better just get out of here. And I was like, okay. So I started calling the State Farm because they'd paid out the insurance. And so now it's technically their vehicle. And I started working with their team there to try to get access to the vehicle. They held on to my son's vehicle for, what was it, a year and 6 months, I think.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense either.
I caught him 2 times sending it out of that impound yard over to the towing company who also does other type of mechanic or maybe even body work. I don't know. 2 times and then sending it back. We got him. State Farm, they admitted it to State Farm, and I went down there one time where I said, I sort of acted as if I was with the insurance company and said, I'm looking to see if this vehicle's here. Here's the VIN number, blah, 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 blah. And he pulled it up. He goes, oh, yeah, we have it right here, And I was like, oh, thank you very much. I'll talk to you in a little bit here. And I got my vehicle, and I immediately called State Farm. I said, it's right here, right now, And then she said, okay, well, we're going to try to locate it because it's technically ours, and they're supposed to release it to us. And then I got a call back from the guy at the tow company, and he said, he's laughing. He goes, evidently, I just imagined what I saw on the screen. I was wrong. The vehicle is not here and has never been here. I started laughing. And it was what he was inferring was obvious.
I'm surprised it wasn't Progressive. They're usually the culprits in these when the insurance deal comes in.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of connections between this particular tow company and the sheriff.
Well, so as it stands right now, there's no investigation into Izzy's death.
Well, they said on the FOIAs that they finished their investigation. I think it was 2 months. I'd have to have the paperwork here, but that was 2 months afterwards. But they didn't talk to the gentleman who was on the scene, the 911 callers. They didn't talk to Crippen, who had threatened me. As far as I know, anyway, they didn't talk to anybody and didn't do anything. Didn't even map the scene.
Right.
And I did talk to the sheriff. I think it was about 3 or 4 months ago, the actual sheriff, and not a deputy sheriff. And he, to his credit, he said we were on the phone, and he wanted me to tell him what happened. And he sounded, actually, I'm so glad that no one would listen to me.
Right.
No, at least he gave me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I told him all this stuff, and he was just like, when I got to the $1 million restitution, what the? I'm like, yeah. And so he gave me 10 minutes, but I'm not aware of any investigation except for I did start using some AIs, and I'm not going to get into that whole story. But if the initial information I got from 2 separate AIs is correct, they told a story. Because I think that they probably accessed maybe phone conversation, maybe talking online outside of secure means. But they basically told a different story where the sheriffs were lied to. They were told that he was dead on the scene, but he was actually alive.
Right.
And that he ended up going to the local hospital. And in the documents, you'll see that he was actually had an intern sheet filled out Why would you fill out an intern sheet if you didn't bring somebody in?
Right.
And then evidently something happened there. Probably, I don't know. I have my theories. I'll put it that way.
Well, tell me this, Tyrone. Do you live alone now, or your daughter's moved out?
Yeah, my daughter doesn't live with me. I live alone, but I normally have somebody here. I'm either renting out to them or I'm still helping people and so on. And I got to be able to try to figure out who was following me, I started going to different areas at night because I started having drones. Oh my God, it was crazy. Drones peering into my through my windows.
Yeah, of course. Peeping Tom perverts. They love that.
It was. I'd have people over my house. What is that? I go, yeah, there's a drone above the tree. There's another one over there. It was crazy. Following me down the road at night. So I'd go out to different places that were off the beaten path, and I knew that would elicit who's ever following me to send people to me.
Right.
And it worked. And I talked to a number of different people.
And don't give away your tactics.
Yeah.
We're waiting for this.
Well, I stopped since.
Yeah.
I did get arrested.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have to be done to ascertain who's doing what. And God forbid we broadcast that. But you can rest assured it's not hard to figure out who's doing what, folks. You just have to think outside of the box.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. So I did my 2-year investigation, including doing that almost not every night, maybe 3 times a week. I was able to narrow it down, who was following me. And it was actually a number of I've concluded, at least I have myself, it's a number of different groups and agencies.
Well, I'd love to know who they are. So when are we going to get that information?
But it's all speculative right now.
Well, okay.
What I need is a real investigation. And I tell you, if I had subpoena powers, I could follow this all the way up the chain. And
well, you can get that. It begins with, I believe, with a 1983, and with a constitutional rights violation claim with the people that run this program, which is manned by law enforcement. That's the sheriff or the chief, respective city and county, and a John and Jane Doe, state actors, and that come out in discovery. So there's a process, I believe, that that can be performed to start bringing some of that out.
Yeah.
It'd be
well. I mean, the Crippen character. Just before I kicked him out, that day where I said, just spit it out here. Why? He had told me he ate breakfast every week with my former FBI probation officer.
Yeah.
And he knew his name by name. And I was like, wow. So I've been able to draw lines where this all came from. But like you said, I need to be able to get some type of a discovery and or a real investigation. If the Trump administration is truly after, he signed that EO and he says, people that are targeted in there. And I have to admit that after he signed that EO, the very, the overt type of targeting fell off the map. I was no longer being followed everywhere. I was, the gang stalkers weren't all over me. And I blew up all my bridges, with all the gang stalkers. Now they realize I was telling them the truth all along. They thought I was crazy. That's to my advantage, Let them think that I'm nuts. And so, yeah, that's what I'm looking for now. I need a real investigation. If these people are really intent at going after the deep state and these people that are targeting American citizens and violating our constitutional rights, and declaring us terrorists, with no just cause whatsoever,
No.
no due process whatsoever, and then trying
It's vigilantism at its finest.
Excuse me?
A vigilantism at its finest.
Yeah.
And of course, in this as it's carried out by deplorables that have their own understanding of what is right, what is wrong, and this is we need to make George Orwell fiction again, ladies and gentlemen, because what they believe is right is absolutely is what's wrong, and what they believe is wrong is what's right. So that is the moral of that. Well, parting shots, Tyrone. Where are we going from here, and what are your plans?
Well, I'm sending out tomorrow certified letters to all the department heads, that have been appointed by Trump now.
Kash Patel, Pamela Bondi.
Yep. Bongino and Seth Pete Hegseth and
Pete Hegseth, yeah. He's the Department of Defense, isn't he?
Yes. And a number of other people, including Mr. Kennedy, because I think a lot of this falls under
absolutely
Event 201.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And and hopefully they respond, and I hear back from them. And if I don't, I'm going to DC myself and start knocking on doors, because I am not going to rest until my son, he's done right, because what they did to him was unconscionable. I don't know how any of these people sleep at night. If you have a beef with me, you come to me.
They're cowards. They're cowards
of the worst sort.
They're cowards, and they've got all the time in the world to stage these clandestine calamities, and then expect and think somehow that it will never be checked.
Well,
a famous quote is, "I will rip and tear the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it in the wind." John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
That's right.
We know what happened to him and his mindset. And folks, this is right out of the CIA playbook and all the diabolical, illegal programs that have fallen since then, that have been instituted, that have not been done away with. They've just been mainstreamed. We're going to stay on top of this, Tyrone. I want you to stay in touch. And folks, if you want to weigh in, we welcome your comments down there below. And Tyrone, you just keep a watch on this video, because people are going to be talking to you, not me, talking to you, asking you questions and so forth. And so just make sure you stay on that and respond to that. And I am determined that Izzy did not die in vain. He was simply innocent in this whole deal. And because his family, his father was targeted, then these demons, these criminals, have no qualms with destroying everything that is deemed close and near and dear to that targeted individual's heart. They don't want to kill the targeted individual. They want them to suffer just like they're suffering. And that's why they will bring these calamities around them and destroy the family network and isolate these people and ultimately destroy them. and that, folks, is in America. It's happening to millions, in excess of 4 million a year. We're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep exposing it. Tyrone, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me on.
It's a lot to take in, and maybe before too long we can have you back on here and talk a little bit more, because folks, free speech is they hate free speech, and because he was in the printed media and in writing, he was targeted and is still targeted. And so we want to talk about that some more. Folks, I appreciate you. Share, subscribe, like, your comments down there below. We appreciate you. Until next time, God bless you.
God bless you.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Let's go. I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top, got a filled up engine. In my thoughts, obsession. I will not stop, no, I'm never second guessing. I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test.